Austintown, and welcome to this rendition of Who's News, where we look at and interview people, organizations, and clubs that are of interest to the people in Austintown. And today we have an organization that's been around for a long time, doing public service to so many organizations, activities, schools, everything under the sun. And today we're going to talk to two of the bosses of that club. The club is the Rotary Club of Austintown. And with me are a couple of, one president and one coming up president, are my guests. To my far right is Gary Reel, and a lot of you out there who graduated from Fitch High School know his name and know his face. And he is going to be the new president of the club. I believe it's this year?
Yes.
It is this year. And to my right is the lovely version of the club and the presidential area, and that's Chris Velocic. And Chris we're going to talk about that, but you were a Fitch High graduate, and you were the president of the club for the last term.
The term before.
Term before,
yes.
Okay. But today we're going to talk about the club itself and how wonderful the club is. But first, let's find out something about you. Gary, let's start with you. Who's Gary Reel?
Who is he? Well, I was born in Austintown, and I grew up in right behind the Manor Restaurant at a farm. I was distincting in doing 12 years at the old Fitch High School. When I started, there were first grades still there in that building because some of the elementary schools hadn't been built. So every time a new building came up, including Lindkirk and Frank Ole, we were just not going to fit there, so we never got to go. So all 12 years in that building. So I went to YSU and got my degree in teaching, came back to AMS for the first year of teaching at AMS, and then to Frank Ole for the next 16, and finished up my career at Fitch with the last 13. While I was at Fitch, I was teaching economics and honors history. I was also NHS advisor and Interact Club advisor, which is actually a phase of the Rotary. So through that Interact Club, I was able to understand what Rotary was. And as soon as I graduated from high school here, I went to join the Rotary because I wanted to be able to do things during the day, which I couldn't do when I was a teacher. My wife and I live in Austintown in Meanderwood. We are now in the so-called retirement stage, but as people who see me out say, you're not retired, you're just doing a different thing every day. So I am glad to be here. I had been president from 2005 to 2006, but the call came to come back, so here I am for one more term.
That's interesting. Here we have a Austintown born, bred, and still going. That's wonderful. Chris, how about you?
Well, I don't have quite the Austintown history of Mr. Reel here, but I've lived in Austintown since I was probably 4 years old, so I feel like Austintown has always been home for me. I'm an Austintown grad, and I don't want to say what year, but I just say I went to school with Mr. Carano. How's that? I used your line good.
There you go.
But I live here in Austintown. My children have attended Austintown schools. I've been involved with the PTA here in Austintown. And after PTA, I was looking for something that could give me the sense of service to my community because I really love Austintown. And so Rotary really filled that need for me. As soon as I joined the club, I felt very welcome, and I fully believe in all the projects we do because we give so much back to the Austintown community. My business is here in Austintown, and I just think that we're a great job.
Let's talk about your business. What is?
Well, unfortunately, my business has been closed for a little bit because of COVID, but we do have the Family First Adult Day Services on Kirk Road that used to be at the old Lindkirk Church. So we were excited to buy an old building, we rehabbed it, and brought a business into Austintown.
That's a staggering thing from so many businesses, so many organizations too, not just not businesses, because of the virus. We hope desperately that everything comes back and we can do things. But it's great that you two are here. Here's Austintown again, Austintown. Listen to them. These people came here, they lived here. I can't get over it, Gary. You said you were a farmer initially.
Yes, I was. In fact, I still get drafted once in a while
you?
when they're really hurting for help.
You know, the irony, I grew up in Camel, and Austintown at that time was a farm community. We used to play football at your school, and behind there was a farm.
It was.
And there were all sheep and so on. We always used to tease Austintownies cut their grass by sheep. But all of a sudden, that 1960 showed up, and Austintown became the biggest community, and we're now close to 40,000 people. It's there. But you both have been into the Rotary. How long have you been in now?
I joined in 2000, right
2000?
after I graduated. And I was very much involved right away because I'd been ready for it. I needed something after teaching all those years. And I draw upon the students I had. A lot of them are members now. I use them as speakers. If I need some help, I just call them up. Oh, sure, we'd be glad to help.
We're going to talk about that. He has a personality plus, especially he's not afraid to pick up the phone. How long have you been there, Chris?
I've been in Rotary about 6 years now. I've started just attending meetings and got active pretty quickly in the board and worked pretty much every position as a Rotarian on the Rotary board. So I think there's a few I haven't, but.
Sorry.
I came into Austintown in 1967, 68 actually, and the Rotary was starting. Now it's 1968, and that's when it started.
And that's when this building opened.
And that's when this building opened. That is correct, because I was here teaching the second year it was open. But the thing is to go through 53 years of servicing, and it is a community service organization. Right. And it's great. The other thing I notice here is the International is 100 years old, and 100 plus.
100 plus. It was started in 1905 in Chicago.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. Okay, what is Rotary?
I would say the best thing, Rotary is a service organization that connects people together that have a like mind to serve. Some people are more interested in the local, some are more interested in the international. Rotary has attacked the disease of polio and is now down to 2 countries with only 1 case in the last 6 months.
Wow.
And that polio epidemic was even more severe than what COVID has happened to us, because this is a short run, we think, whereas that was going on for years and years. And so we saw the United States with the Salks vaccine, but when it came to the worldwide, some countries were suspicious, some countries didn't really want all their people to live. They were content to let people die off. And so to get that polio vaccine into all these countries, and it's kind of like the COVID because it has to be used within a certain temperature.
Temperature too.
And to take a donkey across a set of mountains carrying these doses and making sure, because once it reaches the wrong temperature, it's water.
Well, the irony of that is probably 70% of the people who were born somewhere in the 90s or 80s and 90s don't even know what polio is. Mm-hmm. And all of us who grew up during that particular time, that was the biggest fear of your life, polio. So the organization basically started to do service for problems that existed in the communities.
Right. The guy in Chicago was named Paul Harris, and he came from a small town, and he realized in the big town of Chicago, everybody was there for themselves. Everybody was an import. Nobody really lived there their whole lives. And he felt he missed that friendship that he had when he was back in the small town. So he gathered together 4 of his best friends in the business world, and they started meeting in each other's business. And they said, well, we don't want to just always come to the same place. Let's rotate around and go to your building next and your building. And they saw firsthand what this other guy did and what he was living as. And so it spread, and now there's Rotary clubs in about, 180 countries, and about 32,000 clubs in that area.
You know, we're going to talk about that in a second, but the thing is, let's talk about our Austintown ones, because it started in Youngstown. And it's, according to the history here, Youngstown got so big, and a lot of people came from Austintown. Now, Austintown wasn't that big when that started. It was just, that's when they were coming in. But all of a sudden now, who were some of the leaders? Do you remember some of those guys?
No, I had Bernie Herschel as one of the early members.
Bernie was, yes.
There was Toby Murto, his dad. Dan Murto was one of the, Bob Sen was one of the early members.
So, yes.
Yeah, there's still, we had a 50th anniversary party, and a lot of these past presidents showed up.
Good.
Now, not all of them have been able to stay as members. Some are deceased. But they still have an affection for the club. You know, when you say something we're going to do, I'll help that.
But you know, I like when you said you joined after you graduated. Yes, graduated. But the fact of the matter is, most of the club, the history of the club, came from business owners and so on, who got other business owners to join in and so on.
And it's evolved. We found that that's one source, but a lot of business owners say, I'm so busy I can't get away. You go in my place, one of the employees, or you, I just, you know, so we've looked into people. Retired people have turned out to be an excellent source.
Yeah.
Women weren't allowed until 1986, and actually took a Supreme Court ruling to make that happen. But our club would have died if we hadn't started taking women in, because it's just something that's a different perspective, a different amount of energy, a different time factor, and some of the busiest women have time for what we do.
You know, but it was, the whole world was changing at that time.
Correct.
Women's liberation and so on should have been. The funniest part for those of us who are men about the word women liberation, they dictated to us long before they were liberated. I'm telling you that. Okay, but let's go back. We go back because here's an organization that started because of problems and because of the businesses and so on, but they were looking to do different community things. Now, here we come into Austintown. There are national, I presume there are still national sponsorship of different programs and so on for community service. And you were talking about all that international work that's going on.
We do have an international phase, and our club particularly has gotten involved in a water project in El Salvador, thanks to one of my former students, Dan Papalardo, who went there he was a bunch of things.
Yes.
And he came back and he said, this town really needs a dependable water system. And so he and I went to a bunch of Rotary clubs here and got him started, and different groups joined in. And it's still sustaining. It's still running, and that's been 20 years ago. He
was on my speech team. He came back. He had such a personality that you could see that when he's in a foreign country, he's got to get a lot of people to back him. Okay, we're going to talk about the Austintown Rotary. The one thing that really fascinates me, okay, you can join. How do I become a Rotarian?
Show up at a meeting.
That's it.
That's it. Some have come to me and said, how do I join? I said, you already did. And we asked somebody to come 3 times, and with that time we asked them, do you really want to stay with us? Yeah, okay. And we induct them, and we just tell them this is a way to serve, and we want you to have a good time, and we want you to get involved. And as long as they're willing to do that. And I was just watching a show that said about 1/5 of all the members of any club, organization, fraternity, you know, religious group, about 1/5 the people do a lot of the work. And then about another half of the people do what they can when it's convenient. And then you got about 1/5 that say, I don't have time.
Yeah, on my biography I put down Rotary, but that's
when I die, right.
Chris, how did you get involved?
Well, I had seen just from like the newspaper, because Mr. Real is such a great publicist for
Rotary. They call us Mr. because of our age.
I understand.
No, he's a great publicist. So I was seeing in the paper all these things that the Austintown Rotary was doing, and I thought, what a great organization. I want to be a part of that. And so I called a fellow Rotarian and a fellow past graduate of Austintown, Mark Cole, and I said, hey, Mark, I want to come to Rotary. He goes, do you want to come as a speaker? I said, no, I want to join. And that's how I got into the club. But, you know, talking about Austintown Rotary and Rotary in general, people think that it's a business club and it's a lot of men, and it's not. We have a lot of women in our club. We have a lot of retirees in our club. And we are a very genuine group of people. People think that, oh, I don't have time for Rotary. And you do have time. Even if you can't make a meeting every week, you can still come as much as you can. And we have certain people that their jobs have changed and they can't come to the meetings regularly, but they have certain projects that they've kind of spearheaded, and that's their project, and that makes them a valuable member to our club. So there's all kinds of opportunities that you can serve within the club without just have to be there every week and showing up.
That's beautiful, and it's true of all clubs. But the number one thing that always shocked me about the Rotary, now I belong to a lot of different organizations. Our meetings are once a month. You guys meet every week.
Every week.
Every week.
Yes.
And that fascinates me. Now, I can remember, I think I could have a library from all the books you guys gave for me, because I came and give speeches about either the speech team or the trustees, stuff and so on. But the fact is that are you finding, I can remember one time, you'd go in there and there'd be 50 people there, constantly. Now, most organizations are having trouble only in the sense that people are, because of the time and so on, they really are hustling and so on, they can't be there. Are you having problems getting some of the people there?
I think COVID has been hard for our club.
It's hard.
And so we had started, COVID started in March of my year as president. And then the next president came in July, Heather. So we had started doing Zoom meetings, and those meetings I think really helped our club. And Heather continued doing those and then started doing in-person and Zoom meetings so that the members could still stay in touch with the club. And now we're having regular meetings, and we're seeing, yesterday we had our meeting, we had a really great turnout. So not to where we were when you were coming and there was 30, 40 people there, but we're still getting a good group of people that are starting to return back to in-person meetings.
Well, the two of you have great personality. You could see it. And I've worked with Gary for years, and Gary's a hustler. I mean, he's an absolute hustler. The fact of the matter is that service organizations, for the longest time, forgot they were service organizations. They became social. Yeah, they sit around and they talk to each other.
Right.
But the Rotary never did. No. There was always a project going on somewhere. Yep. But I think it's because of the leadership as opposed to just the membership. Because I agree with that one-third type of thing, the situations. But you have a lot of programs. Now, what are the ones that are constant?
Well, we always seem to be doing a roadside cleanup on Kirk Road. Yes. And we picked a section from Route 46 all the way down to the township line at Whispering Pines. And twice a year we do that project. And the Interact Club at Fitch helps us, because we break up into about 5 zones and each one takes a group, and it goes fast. And we have been doing dictionaries in the 3rd grade.
Yes,
since
I was reading that.
And we give every kid, and in some cases for kids, it's the first book they've ever owned. They can take home and keep. And we've worked with the Salvation Army, the Rescue Mission. Those are always going to happen. And we do scholarships at Fitch High School, and we've been doing that for a lot of years. And so the ongoing projects are easy to program and schedule, but occasionally something will come along that is bigger. The band shell at Austintown Park was one of the early projects in the 80s, and they worked so hard to get that together. And the park has taken care of it, which is great, but we got it in there. And the Celebration Grove at the park is also a Rotary.
Still going
when I was president.
Yes.
And there's 100 trees there representing the Rotary's 100th anniversary. So it's ongoing. We don't, seem to run out of things to do. We have a project now called Operation Warm that is spread from other places to here, and this is buying winter coats for kids. Oh. And at first we were doing it as a Youngstown district and giving them all away through the Salvation Army, which was great. But we rationalized, said, we have people in Austintown that need those coats too. So through the cooperation of the school counselors, we've been able to distribute those probably the last 4 or 5 years locally.
We started that my year that we started going back into Austintown for that.
And it's not as big, of course, as the one at the Salvation Army, but you see kids that are sometimes wearing the coat they got the year before in that doesn't fit so well. and looks like it's had some mileage on it, but it's going to go to the next child in that family if they don't get one.
One of the things we were talking about with organizations too, we know of people who are poor and the needs that they have. What a lot of the things that are hidden are families that aren't considered poor, but don't have
edge.
things. Yes,
On the edge.
and those are the ones with their clothes that are ancient and stuff like that, and so on.
Well,
and Austintown has that.
You have that. You go with that.
So for the Austintown Rotary Club, we did recognize that. We've had past representatives from the school system come in and talk to us about some of the needs in the school. And, you know, a lot of us have been Austintown Fitch graduates. We live in Austintown. Our children have been there. We know people. We want to support our school and the children who go here. And the times have changed, and we have really seen children coming to school hungry, children coming to school without, proper
Shoes.
clothing. So Operation Warm, that's one of the reasons we brought that back here. And each year we are able to distribute 25 coats to each of the buildings. We'd like to increase that. The donation is about $25 that we collect from different methods, and then that will purchase a coat for each child. Then we got a matching grant through one of our local businessmen here, and he gave us, if started off, I believe, is $500, and he would match us $500. Then we were up to $1,000. He said, if you guys did that, I'm going to give you $1,000. So around end of November, we have a representative from Critty's Closet come in, a representative from the PTA for Falcon Outreach, and we have a representative from the AMS Food Pantry. And then we gift them money that they can use to buy the gift cards for Falcon Outreach, stock the food pantry, and then Critty's Closet. They do a lot. They were doing crock pot meals for kids who weren't getting meals, and they would purchase them a crock pot. They would send them home with frozen meals so that they would have food when they got home, because a lot of these kids are taking care of their younger siblings and not having even the understanding of how to make meals for them.
But this is all quiet.
Well, I was going to say that. I said, Austintown, are you as shocked as I am? I've lived here since 1968. And the fact of the matter is, I've been to the Rotary. I know a lot of the Rotary people. They're all hardworking. But these issues we don't know about.
We don't want to publicize to family, what we do
Yes.
for families that are on that edge. If somebody's really bad off, if they had a fire or something, well, yeah, we can get a little news story out of it, but we don't want to make it something that they'll be ashamed of. When that flood hit Wycliffe back in 2005, we came in, we had an emergency meeting on the 4th of July before the parade, and voted to spend a certain amount of money to start going in and tearing out wet drywall and insulation, putting wet carpet. There were families that had no backup from younger children or where, and we did 9 houses in Wycliffe, right down to the new carpet in the buildings and paint the walls. And that was a really great project. But again, those people were glad to say, I
Yes.
needed help, and you came. And so other things that are more, quiet, our scholarships we don't make a big deal out of, but they happen every year. And it's something that you don't have to publicize everything you do. But there are people out there that know that you did help them when they needed it.
Well, I mean, we know, I've seen so many of your projects, the ones, and the irony of those projects is because you need money too.
Yeah, we need money.
You have to be able to do things. But all of your projects, and especially with the school system, obviously because I was teaching here, I knew what was going on. But it is really outstanding to find an organization that gets together, works hard together, and I'm sure that once again, the leadership is there, and the people who could volunteer take care of it, but they do it from the heart and not for the press.
Yeah.
And I think that's really fantastic.
Just like to interject, Ken, one of our projects we've been doing for many years, when a speaker comes, we have them do their talk. And some places you go and they give you a coffee mug or nail file or something. We select a book for the elementary library. Judy Seabrak is a retired teacher and her husband's a member of Rotary. And they go and buy books that the library needs. They'll ask the librarian what topics, because library books are expensive. We're talking $15, $20 a piece. So as a speaker, we will say to somebody, this is in honor of you going to the AES library, and in the front of it's got a plate that said, this is in honor of Ken Carano, who spoke to Austintown Rotary.
Oh, then you give us these beautiful little plastic
Yeah,
things.
little plastic.
Yeah, but those are nice.
They're nice.
I mean, the thing is, that is important.
Yep.
It makes you feel good that somebody's going to be seeing something
Right.
that years from now.
Right.
Right.
And those books are going to last a long time. They're not the cheap dollar books.
Yeah.
Are they?
But you're there also for emergencies. You talked about the house and so on, but I remember one program that you got the students, and they work with the National Honor Society students, and a lot of them are connecting together,
Sure.
and they painted the poles on our streets. They were rusting
Yep.
and so on as a project and so on. So they're always there. And now you are really obviously the leader for the longest time over there. Are you still dealing with the Interact
Oh, yeah.
program?
Yes. I work with Mrs. Kubaki, is our Interact advisor in the school, and she and I are a perfect match together. She does most of the things in the school that need to be done, and I help her on the outside. So with the roadside cleanup, if she can't be there, I'll make sure the kids were given credit for being there. If they're going the rescue mission, we used to take them down there to serve the dinner. And it's a good experience for those kids to see that not everybody has what you have. And so the Interact Club is, the biggest thing they do in Fitch is the recycling. Tons and tons of paper that would be put into the trash dump goes to be recycled. And they go around between the classrooms, the students, and pick that up once a week and take it out to the bin and put it in so that it can be picked up.
Sure.
So it's something that nobody really sees that much but those kids know that they've done something for the environment.
Chris, all these projects, and it's not just because they're business people paying dues and stuff like that. You have fundraisers, some very good ones. I do love the flags. I love that traditional, and the best part about it is that all the Rotary clubs in the area are doing that, so those flags are up. It's just a beautiful situation. But you have other ways of fundraisers. Are we going to get back to some of those that you have?
Good.
Well, we've always had our reverse raffle,
Yes.
which was a very nice fundraiser. You came, you got dinner, it was open bar, appetizers, we had Chinese auctions,
right.
and different ways that people could win money through the raffle program. Obviously, COVID came, and we were unable to have our raffle. It was, what was it, the beginning, we usually have it
beginning of March.
in March.
Yep.
So we ended up moving it to November, and we did a virtual Chinese auction, and then we did a raffle, the reverse raffle. We did differently. All the money that we would have spent, we split it. So that person who won that raffle ended up walking away with about $11,000. And then we had given out multiple increments of money to other people through that. And so it was definitely a change for us, but it also was very profitable for the club, which allows us to put all this money back into our community. Everything we raise as a club comes back in basically to Austintown, most of it. We do some international stuff. The flag project, you see those flags, the kids from Austintown schools put those flags in. They put them in, they take them out, and they get reimbursed for their club, and that helps support some of the clubs in the Austintown schools.
And those clubs are the Fitch Band and the girls volleyball, girls volleyball and the swim team.
Swim team.
Those are our
No,
three.
wait, that came
benefactors.
up, the swim team. Is that an official club? That's a club thing here, right? The swim team.
It's
not-
sports,
it's
board
sports, yeah,
sanctioned,
okay.
and it is. But we don't have, of course, the pool. As most kids,
Yeah.
young freshmen
No,
found
they-
out that the pool isn't on the third floor.
Well, we had. I mean, they were competing at Kent State and all this.
Yeah,
other
we've had some
stuff
really
like
great
that.
swimmers come out of here.
But see, that's why. Let me give you one more little advertisement for the reverse raffle. It was a great time each year to be able to see so many people that you know and sit around and talk. The interaction there was absolutely phenomenal.
Right.
Always. You know, the sad part about it is as we get older, and we were talking about some of the other people who are the leadership, the officials in your club and so on. And some of them are gone, some of them are retired, some of them can't do what they did before. And that's what happens, that all of a sudden, here we are, we get in between, and the person that would always call about the tickets for that, all of a sudden isn't around anymore. But you would always have those tables, and people would just go from one table to another and get to know Austintown.
But it was for Austintown.
Yes.
You had a few politicians come in from the outside.
Yes.
But basically it was Austintown people
Yeah,
who wanted the best.
we only wanted Austintown politicians.
Yeah, right.
but
We'll take money from anybody.
Anybody, that's right. But I mean, the thing is that the accomplishment there is, and you have people who are business people. Business people have a tendency to know how to advertise, how to do things so that you can accomplish what you have to be.
And they have a lot of connections too.
Yes.
And when we need something done, we'll say, who knows something about this? Or, and somebody will come forward. The parade's coming up, the July 4th parade.
Right.
And I went in that one meeting and I said, we want to do this, but we have an inflatable wheel we don't have to use that big wooden one anymore. We have an inflatable, and now that trucks have plugs that you can plug in for a saw or whatever, why don't we get a truck that has that, and all we have to do is we won't take. And Mark Cole stepped up and he says, my buddy just got one, and I'll call him right now and see if he wants to be your driver.
I think Mark Cole knows everybody.
He does. He's a good guy. You can always count on him.
I have to tell you this. When I was talking to Gary, and he explained this to me, I was a little depressed. I thought that wheel, that your ancient wheel,
the big one, yes,
was the most phenomenal float that was ever in our parade. And our parade's been around for a long time. Well, the Rotary did a lot of the work with the parade too. But that was so impressive. It was always, look on your shirts, there's the example percent of the wheel. Yep. And now I like the idea of blowing it up. It makes it a heck of a lot easier for everyone to do things.
Right.
But I'm going to miss that wheel.
Well, I mean, we might have to yield to public pressure and bring it back. And
it does need a little TLC.
Yeah, and it's probably 20 years old, so it's something that this is much safer too. When we had that, we had to go through back streets to get it back to where it started. We had to take it back to where it's stored. That's a big thing to be taken down the road.
People don't understand that when you have things like that, you have to find places to store them. Yes. You have to be able to rebuild them and all this other stuff. We have that log cabin, God rest his soul, Jimmy Johnson manufactured. He took care of that. Unfortunately, Jimmy has passed, so now we have to work on how to put it on a trailer and things of that sort. But times pass, but those things are remembered. They're remembered. People remember that when they see the parades and so on. So what's going on right now? What do you need most from the people of Austintown for the Rotary Club to continue their outstanding
We'd like
service?
some new members.
Okay.
We're right around 30 right now, and we never seem to get much past 30 or much under 30. And there's so many people out there that have abilities that they're not using, and including the retired people. If you're still active and you say, man, I'd like to have something, it's a good social organization once a week. It's a great way to meet people that are from your community. Sometimes people will bring somebody else in, which is fine. And sometimes we have somebody who walks in, said, I want to be a member, and that's great. But right now we're meeting at Coach's Bar, burgers, not bar, on Mondays. We're looking at maybe changing that to Thursdays, but that's just an experiment.
In the plaza, the Coaches?
Right, the one by Panera.
Okay.
And
nice people.
We're there. They're nice people, and we're there because we can expand it or contract it as we need to. But right now we're still looking for good people, and that's a great start. We're also looking for people to buy flags. You realize it's a rental situation. You have it up for 6 holidays a year, and then we take it down, store it gently, and bring it back out the following spring. But a lot of damage happens to those flags when they're out in that wind and the sun, so we have a group that takes care of flags, and that's their department. They take care of fixing, taking care of problems, and
it's been my pleasure from the very first start to have the flag for the first time it came down. I had to take it out yesterday, but I'll get it back in because it's beautiful. And it's really
You lost the spot?
Yeah. Well, the thing is that the thing that you have in there is set, but after so many years, it disappears. But it's such a beautiful thing to come in there, and people ask me, and all of a sudden I tell them, look, for $30, what is it?
$30.
They use it. There was here. It's all these different times. The flag is up twice a year.
Oh,
And it's on Memorial Day, Flag Day, which we just went through, 4th of July coming up, Labor Day, Patriot Day, and Veterans Day. You don't have to do it. It's there for you.
Right.
And they come in, next thing you know it, they're taking it out and putting them away. So for $30, it's wonderful. And it's quite, keep in mind that money that you pay for that $30 gives you this beautiful flag, and you don't have to do any of the work. But keep in mind where that money is going and what it's going to be used for.
Right. Part of that's going to those clubs.
Yep.
And then replace the flags. We're up to about 550 flags now. And we started out with one.
Yeah.
So,
But you were talking about the membership. I've been going through all the different. Austintown was always a pleasurable place. They have the different clubs and organizations. We're a veterans town. There's a lot of veterans and thing here. It just seems that, I don't know if it was the virus, but it was starting before that. A lot of the younger people, maybe because they're so busy or something, both of them are, they're always busy and so on, that they want to rest afterwards. But it's tough getting membership.
well, it's tough to get people away from their business at noon also.
Yeah.
Our time.
Oh, yes.
And we've tried having some, variations, but we seem coming back to the same place. And it's just something you have, people that play golf, find time.
Always.
People that go to concerts, find time, even if it means they have to leave work a little early or stay a little late another day. And we're asking for an hour is all our meetings last. So we are, insert. And as I tell people, we're not selling Amway, we're not selling loom siding, we're not selling condos in the Caribbean. We're trying to service Austintown, and that's a great feeling when it's over.
Yeah.
I got to give you one more while you're
Go
there.
ahead, please.
Somebody came to us on the sly and said, we need a ramp. This has happened to us a couple of times. Now, we have no contractors in our group. I'd like to have one, but we don't. And so we teamed up with the Optimist Club that had somebody with some smarts, and we said, if we give the money, would you help us build this? And within one day, that ramp went in. And then we had another one that needed it to get in, another veteran that needed it. And so we paid for a contractor to come out and put it in. But it's something we didn't make a big newspaper story out of. No. It'd be embarrassing. But I saw a lady who was a bus aide on the one that needed, a child that needed one. And when he came home, his mother was so excited to say, you can now get in the house without us trying to lift you into the house. So that was a well spent $250 for that. We did our own labor.
I'm going to tell you now, you're becoming president, so you could bring this up again. And Chris, you could say this. Okay, I'm an Austintown trustee. And what happened was with the veterans, they were all different things. So we started an organization with all the veterans clubs, and we have meetings. And what I was thinking about is, because I'm a member of the Optimist, I'm a member of a number of the other ones, some of which right now I'm in charge of that aren't going to survive. And what I wanted to do was get have a meeting, have an organizational committee from all the different clubs. We sit down, talk about things, and see if we could help each other and so on. And there's things like the Hall of Fame of Austintown. Now we're still working on that particular thing and so on, but the organization that was there is very weak. And what we're doing is looking to find some other people to do things. And I think the combination of would help. The only thing is each of the organizations have specific purposes.
Right.
They have specific, so you have to do this. But I think working together like you did with the Optimists is something that we could all...
It was four of us did that ramp in one day.
Of course.
Two.
Of course.
So it wasn't a big structural thing. There were no blueprints. This would work and this would work.
Yes.
And when the young boy moved away, somebody else in Warren needed a ramp, and they were able to refit it to fit somebody. So it wasn't even wasted then. So it's a great feeling.
Those are stories that make my toes curl because it's so important. that if you could help somebody, just think with how great it feels. I think a lot of the people have lost this. Their problem is that they want to keep their egos up, but they don't understand how the self-egos are so great when you do something for somebody, and it's so important.
Yep. And as a former teacher, I would run into students at the Rescue Mission or at Salvation
Sure.
Army, and some would be a little bit ashamed. I said, hey, we've all have to have help once in a while, and I'm glad that I see somebody who gets it that I know. So it's not an ego situation. It's just service above self.
Well, Chris, you could tell them that this is the truth. You're looking at a combination of this hard worker. He could be a minister, a lawyer, maybe a prison guard too. I don't know, but that's what the clubs are for. And everyone, when you have some sort of accomplishment or some sort of skill, and you can help out somebody, how great it is.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Now, okay, ladies and gentlemen, you want to join the Rotary.
Yes.
Monday. When do we start these?
Noon, Monday noon at Coaches, and like we will be this next 2 weeks. I think we'll be there. No, just next week, and then we're having an evening meeting to try to reach some people at 5:30 at Coaches on the 28th.
Correct.
And that's a great day to have it at 5:30. But we're also going to be serving dinner at the Rescue Mission that same night. Some of us, so not everybody will be able to make. But we do with what we have, and you can contact me. I'm still in the book. And Rotary has a post office box, 4104 in the Austintown Plaza. And you talk around, you'll find out who's a Rotarian, and you say, does somebody know? And I'm really very glad to talk to anybody that wants to be interested. Again, some people jump right into it, do as much as they can, have a great, Chris has been an example. You just have to ask her something, I can take care of that. And she's trying to do a lot of things, with her business situation. And I have the retirement time, so yeah, I can do it. But
You also have the energy.
I've got some energy, and so it's a great way to. And when I run into a former student, I'll say, you thought about it? Well, my job situation. I guess you're not done yet. I'll get you again next year and see when you're interested. Right. And for some people, it's not the right time, and for some people, it's not the right fit at this stage of life. If you had a bunch of young kids, maybe you just have to spend more time with them. But we have a picture from the Wycliffe Flood Project, and one of our members, a young guy, was crawling out of a place covered in plaster. And this guy is an investment counselor. He was not trained to cut out plaster, and he just was white from head to toe from the dust that was making. And we just talked about it the other night with him, and he said that's one of the greatest things that I remember from being a Rotarian. And he's got 20 years in it.
Well, I'll tell you what, if I could speak for the people of Austintown, especially all those that you served, I thank you so very much. Pat yourselves on the back. You deserve it. And it's beautiful that you do so many things that we don't know about because you guys keep it quiet. You really do. And Chris, thank you for your service. And I hope now here, it's something. We're sitting here, two old graduated teachers, and I mean mature people.
I wouldn't quite go that far in either case.
Chris just informed me she graduated with my son, and that was a huge class.
Right.
Austintown. I'll never forget that. When we came here, the second year I was in this school, by the third and fourth year, this school was built for roughly around 2,200 people. We were over 3,000 and so, and it was unbelievable how many.
Yeah.
It was great. But here's two Austintown people taking care of Austintown people. But you're also taking care of people all through the countries, this country and the world.
Yes.
Yes.
We have a project coming up, just starting for Vietnam. And we're going to go into one of the mountain areas of Vietnam and distribute English books that are right age for the kids that are going to get them, so they can have the experience. Some of them are going to be translated, some are going to be in easy English, that they can read something that's not 25 years old. And we're working with a couple other clubs doing that, and it's going to be, when you do an international project, you have to have a club in that country that is actually the agent for your work. So it's not just going to a post office box. It's not just going to some huckster that says, oh, I can handle that. Rotarians help Rotarians.
That's a great, and the philosophy of that is to be able to spread our philosophies and other people's philosophies so that we can understand the modern philosophies, not something that they read 50 years ago.
Yep.
That sort of thing. Well, listen, I thank you so very much for coming in for the Who's News, but let us know any of the things. We'll make sure we get it on the TV, any of the projects that are coming up and so on.
Thank you for inviting
I'm
us.
really looking forward to it. And when you get ready for some of your other projects, come on back and let's talk about them.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Oh,
Thank
it's
you.
absolutely our pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, you just heard about one of the most fantastic organizations in the history of Austintown's organizations. And if you are ready, if you have some time on your hands, this is a great group to go out and join in. If you have some skills, we want you more than anything else. But once again, thank you for watching the show. We'll see you on the next edition of Who's News.
In association with Austintown Local Schools and Austintown Township.